There will now be an opportunity for silent prayer or meditation. Honorable members, the only item on today's order paper is questions addressed to the President. Just to remind us, members may press the "to talk" button on their desks if they wish to ask a supplementary question. The first question has been asked by the Honorable J.L. Fabs. Honorable President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. The growth, employment, and redistribution strategy ought to stabilize South Africa's macroeconomy during a period of increasing public debt and the fiscal deficit, exchange rate volatility, and a shift in global investors' sentiment towards developing countries. The Accelerated Shared Growth Initiative for South Africa in the third administration was premised on the acknowledgement that South Africa's economy or economic growth rate was too low to substantially reduce poverty, and that the benefits of economic growth were not being shared fairly by all South Africans. Similarly, the new growth path was developed in the fourth administration in the aftermath of the global financial crisis, which had resulted in 1 million jobs being lost in South Africa and a substantial reduction in South Africa's economic growth rate. The National Development Plan represents a long-term strategy to eradicate poverty, increase employment, and reduce inequality by 2030. There is indeed a link between the National Development Plan, Industrial Policy Action Plan, and the new growth path. We state clearly in the ANC manifesto, which we are implementing, that within the National Development Plan vision exist critical policy instruments that will continue to drive government's policy agenda. These include the new growth path, which promotes inclusive growth and the creation of decent work. The National Infrastructure Plan, on which we spend 3 trillion rand in the past term, and will spend more this term as well to roll out infrastructure to improve people's lives and boost economic growth. The industrial policy action plan which supports the reindustrialization of the economy, we have set a target of 5% economic growth by 2019, and we aim to use these instruments to achieve this target. Primarily, we have begun to institutionalize long-term planning, integration, and the coordination capacity within the state to drive industrialization, infrastructure development, and other programs. This week, we reconstituted the Presidential Infrastructure Coordinating Council, bringing together national, provincial, and local spheres of government to hasten the delivery of roads, bridges, schools, hospitals, universities, colleges, dams, power stations, and other infrastructure. We are also implementing other initiatives such as promoting local procurement and the creation of decent jobs by directing the state to progressively buy at least 75% of its goods and services from South African producers. Our key strategy is to also support small enterprises, cooperatives, and broad-based Black economic empowerment. We will also mobilize the active participation of all sectors, including business and labor, to move our country forward towards the 5% growth target. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honorable Fabs.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Mr. President, thank
The mic on.
I thought it was. This is right. Thank you very much, Honourable.
No, not yet.
Well, if I may, I'll move. Right. Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Mr. President, I also wish to thank you for explaining part of that. And what I would appreciate, Mr. President, if given, as you also agree, these global threats and internal threats to the economy, can you just expand on the measures that are being implemented to ensure that the NDP and the NGP and the Industrial Policy Action Plan yield their intended objectives, particularly the creation of decent work? I thank you, Mr. President.
Honorable the President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. As I've indicated, the instruments that we are using to ensure that the National Development Plan moves forward, I have articulated the kind of instruments that we are putting together as elements, very clear elements that will help to ensure that it is indeed implemented, that indeed in 2030 we are able to see the results as articulated in the plan itself. There are many, many other things that we could talk about. I just picked up on those that are very critical kind of elements in the process of ensuring that indeed by 2030 we get what we wanted to get out of the NDP. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
I have two members of the Ahang. I will take the first one, Honorable Pluwama, for a supplementary question. Remember, we're confined to 4, and it can't be 2 from the same party. Pluwama, are you here?
Madam Speaker, I'm here. It's just the machine is wrong. I did not indicate of asking a question.
Oh, okay. Let's take Honorable Chishonga, also from Ahang. He's not there. I see your names here. So I think there's a mistake. Maybe you press the button without intention. The moment you press the button, you send a message to us. Is that Honorable Chishonga?
Yeah, there was a problem of the machine, which is just misbehaving. We are not unable to switch it off. We found it being on. So we are unable to switch it on. That is why I requested some.
Okay, you have no intention to ask a
No.
supplementary question?
No.
We move on to Honorable Swart of the ACDP.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Arising from your response, Honourable President, most political parties are in broad agreement with the NDP, and the ACDP appreciates the efforts you have outlined today to implement measures to increase economic growth. Now, we know foreign investment remains one of the most crucial mechanisms to spur that growth, but as I'm sure you'll agree, multinationals need a stable and predictable policy environment. And in this regard, there are a number of bills that have caused concern and which, in our opinion, fly directly in the face of the National Development Plan. One of these is the Security Industry Regulation Amendment Bill, which requires foreign-owned security companies and their suppliers to sell 51% of their companies to South Africans. Now, that is in violation of our WTO's General Agreement on Trades and Services, and also causes investors to wonder what sector next will have to hand over their businesses. The other pieces of legislation are the Protection and Promotion of Investment Bill, the Expropriation Bill, and the Mineral and Petroleum Resources Development Amendment Bill. Now, Honourable President, does one not want to avoid causing foreign investors becoming jittery with such policies and bills, which can create the perception that South Africa is closing its doors to foreign direct investment? And this is against the backdrop of your visit to Washington and the Africa Growth and Opportunity Act, which requires any country wishing to benefit from that law to have, quote, a market-based economy that protects private property rights. Thank you, Speaker.
Honorable President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I'm sure those bills were discussed by this Parliament, and I'm sure the intentions of the bills were articulated by members of Parliament. These were very specific, as you have just reminded us, very specific to specific sectors. They are not general bills to every sector of the economy. The one of security, there were specific considerations that were being raised insofar as that is concerned. I don't know how the debate went, but I'm hoping the debate indicated what probably were the issues. And I wouldn't want to venture into an area which perhaps we did not necessarily debate here. If you have the economy in your country, as we do, but there are issues that relate to the security of the country. I'm not sure whether that bill was not addressing how far the economic activities with regard to the security, how much they impact on the security of the country. And I don't think there is any country that can say we open up everything because we want foreign investors. The countries that lead in democracy, they've got very stringent security measures and bills to protect their countries. That's why I'm saying the opportunity must have been offered that people should have articulated what occasioned those kind of amendments, etc., etc. With regard, as well, with regard to the second bill that you mentioned, I think there has been an agreed kind of approach that whilst the foreign direct investment is absolutely important, but you cannot do it at the exclusion in order to look at the internal dynamics, also the benefits to the citizens of the country, insofar as the economic activities are concerned. And I think, again, this bill was looking at that one. I'm sure if we were to debate outside, in order to take the time of this parliament, we could indicate the problems that people face in getting into the economy. Because as you know, the economy does have a tendency to monopolize things. Now, what do you do with the citizens if that continues? A country would then look at how you introduce the laws that must also cater, as they cater for the foreign direct investors, they must also cater for the citizens of the country. My understanding of the two bills were addressing those kind of issues, and I think no country cannot address those issues. I think any foreign investor will realize that this country cares for itself. And I don't think at the end they will not come because they see the two bills that address very specific issues. I don't think that will be the case. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
The Honorable Hill Lewis from the DA.
Thank you very much, Honorable President. As much as you would like us to believe that there is a grand harmony between the plans, no one is convinced, sir. You know, we know, and you know that we know that it is just not true. The ideological paralysis inside the ANC and the tripartite alliance has led to a government which endorses 3 different economic plans which contradict one another and which cannot coexist. Just a few days ago, we heard your close colleague, Mr. Vavi, attacking the NDP savagely in Bloemfontein. That is why our economy is stuck in neutral and unemployment is still going up. Believe it or not, it is still going up. So we have an industrial policy action plan, which contradicts a national development plan, which in turn contradicts a NGP, and more recently we're hearing continuously about a radical plan. So my question to you, Mr. President, is which is the plan? Which is the plan that supersedes all of the others when there's a contradiction between the two, and there are many? Thank you.
The Honorable the President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I'm sure anyone who is a politician who will start from the premise that the opposition will agree to everything will be a funny politician. Absolutely. That's precisely the reason why these good plans, some of you don't agree with. It does not surprise anyone. It's a normal thing in democracy, and that's why there's democracy. And you will try to find the problems where there are no problems. I've stated here very clearly that many of these are, in fact, part of the instruments we are using to implement and harmonize the National Development Plan. And that's what they are. They are not anything else. But of course, from the imagination of the opposition, they might be doing something else. You can't help that one. And that's why you have got to be here on the benches to raise your issues. Nothing surprises anyone. Absolutely. The plan is National Development Plan. That is the plan that is... that is a plan that is overarching on any other sub-plans. Others support this one. The matters are very clear. We have said this time and again. The comrade that we are quoting, my colleague, you are now wanting to believe that he has spoken for the first time. Vavi has been critical on a number of things. There's nothing new, even on the policies of the ANC. So you can't, in a sense, enhance your question by introducing his name. He's known that he's a very independent fellow in his views. So what's new? Nothing new. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
The Honorable Nkomo from the IFP.
Thank you, Speaker. To the President, what plans are in place to bring down the cost of manufacturing in South Africa so as to alleviate our unhealthy dependence of foreign goods? Shouldn't South Africa be able to provide for itself and be an exporter instead of a chronic importer? Thank you.
The Honorable the President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. The issue of the cost of doing business is a matter that we are discussing continuously. And we are making every other thing to ensure that we deal with the issue. I don't think it is just in manufacturing only. There are a lot of other issues we are looking at to say, how do we bring the cost of doing business in South Africa down? But how also do we encourage South Africans themselves to participate and to be part of the economies in all sectors? But what also becomes important is to indicate where are these issues which you believe are a problem to the cost of doing business in South Africa. The ones that we have identified, we deal with, and no country will say we want to raise the cost in order to have the direct foreign investment. I mean, everyone would want to do it within a particular kind of framework so that business does not run away. Of course, one of the problems is that business, leaving aside the cost, they've been very reluctant investors, so to speak. Even the local ones, not only the ones. I think it is absolutely known by everybody today that the sector that is leading in terms of investment in this country is government. Where is the business sector? Now, that tells you the problem. But there are attitudinal problems that people have. Of course, there are other issues that you raised. These matters we are discussing to ensure that we find a way that will say, let us not make doing business in South Africa to be costly. And it's a matter we are discussing continuously. Thank you very much.
The honorable members, we've exhausted question 1. We move to question 2 from the DA asking the President of the Republic the question as stated on the order paper, on the question paper. Honorable President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. As we were finalizing the process related to the inquiry, we should include, among others, the terms of reference. The National Director of Public Prosecutions asked for a meeting with the President. I granted the meeting. He then postponed his challenge in court that was standing. Which had been aimed at obtaining an interdict against the possible suspension. I also halted the processes that related to the inquiry to allow an opportunity for that meeting. At the meeting, he tabled certain issues to which I'm still applying my mind. Some thinking, so that when we meet, we'll be able to then move forward. So both of us halted the activities. Him on one side postponed the challenge in court, and I in turn halted the processes, which will be talking to the issue of the terms of reference, because they were concluded already. But that meeting was very important because as the government, it is absolutely important to hear what people have to say. And indeed, that meeting was very important from my point of view. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
The Honorable Macpherson from the DA. The Honorable, the Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Speaker. Mr. President, on the 6th of April in 2009, the then National Director of Public Prosecutions dropped 781 charges against you, ranging from various things, corruption, racketeering. Noting that, Mr. President, do you believe, or in fact, do you not agree, Mr. President, that there is a conflict of interest in you being able to appoint the person who then has the duty or the task whether or not to reinstate the charges or in fact to proceed in dropping them? Do you believe, Mr. President, that there is in fact a conflict of interest, and if so, what steps are we going to take to prevent that in fact that conflict of interest from occurring?
The Honorable, the President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I may not know the details of the charges, and the Honorable Member may know better. So far as I'm concerned, I've got no charges against me, and therefore the issue of the conflict of interest does not arise. I've got no charges, let alone that charges do not mean you are convicted. You go through the court first. So I'm saying, no, the issue of the conflict of interest does not arise in the job I do. On this case particularly, on the matter that you are raising, because you are raising the issue which is a non-issue. It's a non-issue. Charges were withdrawn, there was nothing. If you know there are charges that perhaps are substantial, etc., you are lucky. We don't know. So the matter does not arise. There's no need to answer the question really. I think what I've said tells you that your question really is not a question, a serious question. You are picking up there and there and there. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
The Honorable Mutsecha.
It is an answer. It was not a question.
Honorable President, can you assure this House that government will do everything possible to bring about stability at the NPA so that the institution can focus on its work effectively without distractions?
The Honorable, the President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I will indeed assure the House that that's what I'm going to be doing. That is part of the reason why I've taken the decisions I've taken, because the nature of the discussion and the information given to me was able to identify some of the problems as he sees it as the head of the institution. Certainly, once we are over with this matter, with the current one, we will certainly act in a manner that will ensure that this institution is stable. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Swart, ACDP.
Thank you, Speaker. Arising from your response, Honourable President, I represented the ACDP on the ad hoc parliamentary committee dealing with the Ginwala inquiry into Advocate Piccoli's fitness to hold office as NDPP. Now, notwithstanding the fact that the inquiry found that Advocate Piccoli was fit and proper person to hold that office, the then President Motlanthe decided that he should not be retained in that office. At that stage, Parliament considered the desirability of Parliament, playing a more substantive role in the suspension and firing of the National Director of Public Prosecutions. Now, given the fact that the National Director needs to perform his function independently and without fear and favour, and that security of tenure is a very important part of that independence, would you, Honourable President, not support the notion that Parliament should play a more substantive role in the appointment and possible suspension or dismissal of the National Director of Public Prosecutions? This could possibly be in a similar manner that judges are appointed and dismissed. Thank you, Speaker.
Honorable the President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Well, I think these institutions were set out very clearly in the Constitution, how they are appointed, and if there were difficulties, how these will be handled. Insofar as the work of the executive related to the appointment of the head of this institution, that's a task given to another leg of our constitution in terms of our state. Parliament has its own tasks to undertake. Well, if you want to request Parliament to be added something out of what is being done by the executive, is a different matter. I'm sure you are free to do so. Because I don't think there's been any problem. The matters were dealt with in the Piccoli matter that we talk about. Processes were undertaken. If the president at the time felt he could no longer work with this person, given what has happened, why should he be forced to do so? If he was not satisfied with the performance, he would have taken a decision to say, you can't function at the level at which I want you, and therefore please go. I don't think precisely just because of that incident, you now think that presidents must be helped by Parliament in their job. I don't think so. Absolutely. There's we. There is we. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
The Honorable Mponjane from the IFP.
Sorry, Madam Speaker, it's not Mponjane, it's me, because I pressed Mr. Mponjane's thing, because my thing is not well.
Honorable Mwangu. Honorable Mwangu,
Well,
please.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
We won't ask you what you are talking about.
Well, I was ready to respond, Madam Speaker. Okay. Well, Your Excellency, Mr. President, the manner in which the National Director of Prosecution was appointed has undoubtedly created a great deal of controversy, which does not bode well for the credibility of that institution. Can His Excellency, the President, tell us what are the measures in place to ensure proper screening of candidates applying for senior positions is done? What should be held, or rather, who should be held responsible for not performing the proper background checks and balances other than being relieved of their duties? What other consequences are appropriate for these individuals?
The Honorable the President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Well, I don't know how much the member knows what happened in the processes of employing the head of the NDP, because I thought that as far as the reports, that all processes were followed up to the last. And those who were following the process were satisfied at the end that they can employ the head of NPA. Now, it's difficult to answer the part of the question that you don't know what is it that was not followed. I might begin to discuss a speculation, because the member says, which then would be a different matter. And then the member could tell us this was not done, and that's why there are problems.
The Honorable
Mngwango.
Cha. Siyabonga baba uMncwangu. Sesiqedile question number 2. We now come to question number 3.
Honorable Speaker,
Yes, Honorable
the
Shivang.
Commander-in-Chief of Economic Freedom Fighters pressed that facility there. So we're awaiting to make a follow-up question. Can we please be allowed to do so?
Honorable Member, if you heard me at the beginning, we're limited to 4 follow-up questions. After we have taken the original member who had asked the question as the first person raising a supplementary question, we've now taken 3 more, up to Honorable Mncwangu. So we've exhausted the 4 supplementary questions. And
Chair.
the EFF, let me finish. The EFF was listed as number 6 and 7. So you can't take a supplementary question in this particular question, because we've finished, we've exhausted what we are allowed in terms of supplementary questions. And we would like to move on to
Chair.
the question that
No,
had
Chair,
been...
on a point of procedure here. These things that we press here, and then you decide who is the top 4 there. It's very problematic, because what if we are being excluded from following up a question here? Because we pressed immediately when you started asking about the second question. Now we are told we are number 6.
Honorable Malema, we've taken the 4 questions as they appeared on the list of supplementary questions. So we have exhausted those 4 questions. We are now moving on to question number 3 by
Honorable Speaker, can I address you? Honorable Speaker.
Where are you? Yes, Honorable Member.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, according to House Rule number 72, a member may speak when called upon to do so by the presiding officer. I therefore request the presiding officer, who is the Honorable Speaker right now, to ask the honorable members to desist from such a behavior within the House. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Now, may we proceed to question number 3, asked by the Honorable Malema, leader of the EFF. The Honorable the President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. As the honorable members are aware, my response to all the reports on the security upgrades at my private residence was submitted to the Speaker on Thursday last week, the 14th of August, 1994. I thank you. 2014, sorry. 2014. Sorry, Honorable Speaker. 2014.
Okay. The Honorable Malema.
Thanks, Honorable Speaker and President. Mr. President, we are asking this question precisely because you have not provided the answer. Because you firstly failed to meet the 14 days of the public protector. And secondly, when you responded, you are telling us of the Minister of Police who must still decide who must pay. And in our view, the report of the public protector supersedes any other form of report which you might be expecting somewhere else. So the question we're asking today, and we are not going to leave here before we get an answer, is when are you paying the money? Because the public protector has instructed you that you must pay the money.
Point of order, Chair.
And we want the date of
Speaker,
when are you paying the money.
point of order.
These things of point of order are the ones that you are hiding behind. Ne? You are very good at that because every time reports are brought here, it's point of order, point of order.
The Honorable
We are here to
Member.
ask questions and we need answers. Please.
The Honorable Member who has raised a point of order.
Thank you, Speaker. The issues raised by the honorable member there are going to be dealt with by the ad hoc committee appointed by this House. Why must we preempt the work of that committee?
Order,
So it cannot be a new question here. Thank you.
Speaker. Give the President the opportunity to respond to the supplementary question of Honorable Malema.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. As I said in my answering the question, I have responded to the reports about Nkandla. The reports about Nkandla is not only the public protector. The SIU report, there was a report before of the task committee. I've responded to all the reports as I am supposed to. And I hope we are not going to make a debate on this issue because I have responded appropriately. The issue, for an example, that honorable member is referring to is a matter that arises in the recommendations of the public protector. And I am saying people who
Honorable Speaker.
did the upgrades
Honorable-
at the government that decides. And the matter is referred to people who are legally authorized to make that determination. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
The Honorable Holomisa.
Honorable supposed to be interrupted.
On a point of order. On a point of order.
Honorable Speaker.
Point of order.
Honorable members
On a
of
point of order.
What's the point of order, Honorable Shibambu?
Really, we have dealt with the issues of rules. We have got that book as well, man. We know those things there. Can that lady please sit down and we continue with the business of asking questions here, please?
Oh. Honorable Holomisa, please take.
Can we please be provided with answers? Not hiding behind
Honorable
Parliament
Member, that's not a
precedents
point
here.
of order. Please take your seat. Take your seat.
Of the money. When
Shibambu,
is the
take your
president
seat.
paying the
I have
money?
not recognized you.
And he has not answered the question of
Honorable
when he's paying the money.
Shibambu,
That is what we're
I
looking
will
for here.
throw you out of the house. I will throw you out, Honorable Member of the EFF.
But we are not answered.
Take your seat. I am presiding.
We want the money.
Go on,
Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Member of the EFF, take your seat.
Can I
Take
address
your
you on-
seat.
can
I am not recognizing
Can we
you.
address you on this issue?
I am to the President,
Honorable
get
Speaker,
supplementary
the issue here is
questions.
about the money. When the
Take your
president
seat,
is
honorable
paying it,
members.
Can you get the
Take your
answer there?
seat. Take your seat. I will have to ask the Sergeant at Arms to
Recognize the
Madam
Honorable Speaker on a
Sergeant
point of
at
order.
Arms, please assist me with relieving the members who are in this house who are not serious about this sitting to
We are
take
serious,
their
Chair.
leave.
We are raising a point of order.
No, all we are
Speaker,
asking is the
leave the
president
house.
paying back the money. Why are we getting thrown out?
That money, Nkandla money must be paid. You can't hide behind presidency.
Honorable members, I'm calling the security.
We want
The
money.
house is
Pay
suspended
back
for
our
3
money.
minutes. Go.
We want our money.
Go.
We want our money.
You won't remove us. We're not going anywhere.
Pay back the money. Pay back the money.
Continue.
We don't want police, we want the money to be
Don't
paid
want
back.
police or security.
We
We
want
want
money to be
now.
paid back.
You must pay the money now.
Nkandla money.
Speaker. Speaker. Speaker.
for 1 minute. Yeah. Okay, 1 minute. Is it ringing right now? I got pen. It's over. Honorable members, please take your seats. Honorable members, our security is requesting us to cooperate with them in this respect. They are asking us to vacate the house in order for them to deal with this issue, to assist us. We will then ring the bells again and come back to the house and proceed with our program.